Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Why, hello there. My name is DJ, and this is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. And right now, I'm going to be talking to you about my 100 cards that come in just under $25 that you can get to build your Commander collection. A lot of people want to brew in the comfort of their own card base. They want to go into their collection and make decks. And when you're just starting off in Commander, that can be incredibly difficult. And it's not your fault. The price of Commander staples has gone up like crazy. I used to be able to make really, really good budget decks, and it's becoming harder and harder. That's why I think it's really important to call attention to these staples of our format that can work and are budget. All 100 of these cards come in at under $25. Look, it's right there in the... Point the other direction. It's right there in the Scryfall thing. Right now it's going for $24.62, and this will go up. My former budget staples have also gone up a little bit, and so it's just something that we have to adapt to as the format happens. Now, if you want to hear about all of these cards really quickly, I would check out my other video where I literally spend 10 seconds on each card and really just blaze through them. This is more of a long form conversation video where I can read the cards and explain exactly what makes them good and exactly what makes other versions more expensive so that you can understand the card and know why it's a valuable effect, and also how you're getting your money's worth with each of these cards. Hopefully when you leave this, you become a little bit more knowledgeable about what makes Commander cards really good. One thing that's not good is that Scryfall organizes these alphabetically? What? By creature, and then artifact, and then enchantment, and then instant and sorcery. But I kind of like the way that this looks and the way that they're organized, and Scryfall's just an amazing tool. So we are going to be going through, so you might feel a little bit disjointed as we go through this list, and it won't exactly match up with the other video, but that's just fine. We'll move through this really swiftly. One other thing is that whenever I create content over 30 minutes in length, I will make it really audio friendly. So I'm going to be reading the cards, and hopefully you can follow along even if you're not looking at these cards and looking at my face. Okay, let's start off strong with a Jumbo Commander preview card, Bounty Agent. Bounty Agent is 1 and a white for a Vigilant 2/2 human soldier. You can tap Bounty Agent to destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. Okay, removal is something that we really need in this format. And so why do we choose Bounty Agent over a lot of other removal, specifically in white? If we want to get rid of creatures, Swords to Plowshares is not that expensive and is much better than Bounty Agent. Let's take a look at Swords to Plowshares. Swords to Plowshares has been reprinted a bajillion times, and I mean, it's not cheap, but under $2 is pretty good. 1 mana instant, exile target creature, its controller gains life equal to its power. This is looking way better than Path to Exile. Path to Exile, because it's used in Modern, I don't know who plays Modern anymore, my gosh, means that it usually commands a higher price tag, and it does. The cheapest one coming in at $5. So this is the kind of removal that might feel a little bit outside of our budget, but Bounty Agent is something that's really good. Here's the reason why it's good. You need the body. Okay, usually a 2/2 is not relevant in our format, but if you can use the body, if you can get it back with something like a Sun Titan, if you can see Sun Titan returns permanent converted mana cost 3 or less, Let's say, for example, you also are comparing it with green and you're running a Beast Whisperer, perhaps. Then you're actually using that creature spell to draw a card. Let's say that you want the body. You're maybe using a Shalai Voice of Plenty deck. And oh my gosh, there's so many voices of. And you really want lots of creatures in your deck so that you can incidentally pump them up or be aggressive. Or let's say you use a Tana Timna. Let's say you have a Timna the Weaver deck and you want bodies that can trigger this ability. Those are tons of amazing reasons why you could want something like Bounty Agent in your list. Okay. One other way that Bounty Agent falls short is when you're looking at Mangara of Corandor. This just exiles a permanent. That means it hits lands, it hits all sorts of stuff. It makes Bounty Agent feel very narrow. But this is 3 mana for this effect versus 2 mana. This doesn't attack as well, so it might be serving different functions. This also ends up exiled, whereas Bounty Agent ends up sacrificed. Okay, those could be very big differences when dealing with something like Sun Titan. All right, so you can see the level of depth that we're going in with our very first card. We're talking about all the instances where Bounty Agent could be good and some areas where it might be weak. On the scale of stapleness, the staple scale, where does Bounty Agent enter? Honestly, I think it's on the lower end. I think it's a little bit too narrow to be in every white deck, but there's a lot of creature-based decks that this would slot in really well. And anytime something is under 20 cents, because a lot of times some card shops are like, look, every card is 25 cents, just what I have to pay in order to keep this card around. So it's 16 cents. I feel like this is a really solid pickup. All right. Let's move on to Hushwing Gryff. We're going to stay in white. Hushwing Gryff is 2 and a white for a 2/1 flash flying hippogriff, and it reads, creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. This doesn't cause abilities to trigger is the Torpor Orb text. Torpor Orb is surprisingly good and is used in many different competitive decks. In fact, we're going to pop on over to EDH Rec and we're going to take a look at the top cards, okay? Just the top played cards. We're actually going to go down to type because we don't want to look through all of these top cards. By the way, it's very interesting to go through these top cards and see how many of them cost some money. We have $4.50, over $2, $1.50, $1.50, $10, $1.50, $30, $2.50, $2.50, 59 cents. There we go. The first one under $1 is an unimpressive Signet. Beast Within, we got $2, like $2, $1.50, $6. Like, there's just so many people playing Commander that these staples end up being super expensive and it can leave kind of a bad taste in our mouth. Okay, let's go to what I was actually looking for, which is the creatures of the most popular played cards. Actually, we're going to go to cards by type, and then we're going to go to creatures. So these are the top creatures, and let's take a look. We have an Enter the Battlefield ability as its first one. We've got Man Enablers, another Enter the Battlefield, Enter the Battlefield, Enter the Battlefield. We have, well, land entering the battlefield, but that dodges it. But we have more mana. Enter the battlefield, enter the battlefield, enter the battlefield, enter, enter. So we have enter the battlefield, enter the battlefield. We have a lot of different enter the battlefield effects that really hit all sorts of different decks and all sorts of different archetypes. So you have a card that can interrupt many popular strategies in Commander. That's already great. Again, creatures could be relevant in your deck, giving you card draw, giving you recursion, letting you beat down. I like the Gryff a little bit better because it attacks on that angle, because it can get in for 2 or maybe be pumped in the air, have that evasion. If you are just looking for this effect at a little bit faster pace, Quatli Honor Guard is 2 CMC for a similar effect. It just doesn't attack as well. But the price tag is really strong at under 50 cents. That's 34 cents right there. The next white card on our list is Angel of Sanctions. This is a 2-for-1 built onto a card. In fact, many of the cards that I'm going to be describing are 2-for-1s. This is an Oblivion Stone effect where you can just exile target non-land permanent. Now, Oblivion Stones and Banishing Lights and stuff like that, those are usually pretty inexpensive as well. Look, this is 28 cents that you can get one of these for. I'm sure that Banishing Light is going to also be pretty cheap as well. Banishing Light, again, 14 cents you can get one for. So again, this is not a very expensive effect, but I really like the idea of it being on a body. You know, being able to exile something on a creature is really interesting. We also have Fiend Hunter. You saw Banisher Priest right there. Fiend Hunter is one of the original versions of being able to exile something. This is also very inexpensive at just 12 cents. So this is not a really unique effect. One thing is that Fiend Hunter lets you exile another target creature. Same thing with Banisher Priest, sorry. Exile another creature. Okay. Being able to hit anything like these other effects, like the Oblivion Ring effects, is really good because you often have to answer diverse threats in Commander. Now, this being on a body does make it really susceptible to being destroyed, and then suddenly they have their thing back. Incidental board wipes can give players back their important spells. That's not great. But the Embalm, I think, really saves this. Being able to do it again from the graveyard is really good. That also means that if you incidentally get this into the graveyard somehow, you just kind of have free value. I would be very comfortable including this in almost any white deck. I think that it answers a lot of threats and is really good. Okay, the next white card I want to talk about is World Queller. I am so surprised that this is 29 cents. This card is supremely good. World Queller, 3 white for a 4/4 avatar. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may choose a card type. If you do, each player sacrifices a permanent of that type. First thing, this is a May ability, so if you're not in the right position to be able to have people sacrifice anything, you don't have to. The next thing is you get to pick any permanent type. Let's say you're working on a budget and you don't have Planeswalkers in abundance for your deck. That could be your go-to pick for World Queller. You're just always mentioning, hey, everyone sacrifice a Planeswalker. Everyone sacrifice a Planeswalker. And then no one can keep Planeswalkers on the battlefield as long as you have World Queller. If this just gets rid of one of your opponent's powerful permanents, then it has paid off. It's very good. Now, symmetrical effects can often be broken and you can build your deck around it. In fact, white decks can often prepare for this World Queller ability. They have dumb creatures that you would regularly sacrifice. Let's say that Hushring Griff or that Bounty Agent isn't doing anything. You can just say, sure, I'll sacrifice a creature, get rid of a 2/2, and then suddenly you're edicting the entire board. Again, you can go after artifacts or enchantments. I mean, World Queller is going to be really, really good. There isn't really a good card to compare World Queller to. It might be something like Smokestack. And Smokestack is not very loved. Oh my gosh, it's like $7. Should not be that expensive, but it is. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a soot counter on Smokestack. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a permanent for each soot counter on Smokestack. So this doesn't give you the option. You always have to be sacrificing something, but this does let you tick it up and really ratchet up your taxes part of Death and Taxes. One thing that lets you know that this is a powerful effect is that Braid's Cabal Minion is banned in Commander. Look at that little banned in Commander thing. Yeah. Otherwise, this would be on this list of amazing budget cards. Braid's Cabal Minion is a 4-mana 2/2. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. This taxing effect can be very, very powerful. And I think you're going to notice that when you play World Queller. The next white card is a Darkar Valkyrie. I really want you to pay attention to this snow creature subtype because it might not matter at all right now, like not even at all. But one day it might matter for you and you're going to just have this aha moment that's insane. Okay, a Darkar Valkyrie is 4 white for a 4/5 flying vigilant angel. You can tap it, and when target creature other than a Darkar Valkyrie dies this turn, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Now, this can be very powerful because it does something that white really needs, and that's give you an insurance policy. A lot of times white doesn't have this commanding card draw or this really powerful ramp, and so you feel like you have to put things out on the board. You have to commit too much. And a lot of times in white, you just have to play too many creatures to really impact everyone else. A Darkar Valkyrie can sort of give you an insurance policy. If your creature's going to die, you can tap it and then it'll end up coming back. This can give you a small amount of board wipe protection. But more importantly, this becomes super political because it just says, when target creature other than a Darkar Valkyrie dies this turn. That means you can target your opponent's creatures. So if your opponent's creatures are dying, you just suddenly get to tap this and steal them? All you have to do is steal a single creature, or all you have to do is just mess with the board state enough so that people are holding on to their removal spells, they're not attacking, you're messing with the game. It's very, very good. I also love that it has vigilance and flying, so this can oftentimes just start smashing in for some damage over and over again and always keep that ability up. So just in case anything dies, boom, it's yours. Just in case someone goes to kill your other creatures, you tap this, you get your creature back. It's insurance, it's aggressive, it's just an awesome card, and it's really, really fun to play with. When I think about cards like this that are like big angels that recur things, I kind of think about by the way, when I forget things, I just literally go over here and I figure it out. So Harmonious Shepherd. This, if you are getting sort of a little bit of an upgraded version, would be really great. It's $1.20. It used to be much, much cheaper, but this has landfall, return something from the graveyard to your hand or to the battlefield. And this is definitely a step up from a Darkar Valkyrie. I really like Harmonious Shepherd a lot. Okay. I mentioned the snow creature. This can synergize with a lot of different snow mechanics. The one thing that I really like is scrying sheets. Oh no, how about just sheets? There we go. For scrying sheets as a land, this is not cheap. Ever since they came out with Modern Horizons and reused snow, this is a $20 land. It's silly. But for 1 in a snow, you can look at the top card of your library. If that card is snow, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. So that means that you can hit cards like a Darkar Valkyrie, which is a nice little synergy. A lot of times people will run snow packages in mono white. They'll run scrying sheets, they'll run all snowlands, and then that can give them some form of card advantage. Okay, let's go on to the next white card, which is Harmonious Archon. 4 white for a flying 4/5 Archon, and non-Archon creatures have base power and toughness 3/3. When Harmonious Archon enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. So what this does is it evens the playing field, and white often has a bunch of dorks. You have a bunch of silly 1/1s, and then upgrading those into 3/3s can be really good, while downgrading your opponent's more significant creatures can be really good for you. One thing that this is not a humility. Humility is incredibly powerful and $20. All creatures lose all abilities, and it sets their power and toughness to 1/1. Notice that this does not have them losing their abilities, it's just changing their power and toughness. Another thing is that it resets the base power and toughness to 3/3. This doesn't impact any counters on it. Harmonious Archon could go really well in a counters deck. So if you do have some creatures that have +1/+1 counters on them, then this simply upgrades them even more. Something like Well, I want to say Walking Ballista, but no, Hangerback Walker. So, for example, something like Hangerback Walker, that is a 0/0 with +1/+1 counters on it, becomes a 3/3 with +1/+1 counters on it. And then when it dies, it will create 3/3 flyers. Yeah, that seems pretty good. But again, a lot of the cards that I'm mentioning are expensive. This is a $10 card. Wow, $68 invention, $10 card. So, but again, I might be mentioning staples that are expensive, but it doesn't mean that these effects have to apply. There's one other effect that kind of messes with your opponent's creatures and their creature base, and that is Overwhelming Splendor. It's a curse that can really only target one opponent. It's 6 white for an enchantment or a curse. You enchant a player. Creatures enchanted player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1. Again, you're causing them to lose abilities. That means they don't trigger on ETB. You're really interrupting their whole creature base. So we can see that Harmonious Archon isn't truly interrupting your opponent's creatures as much as some of these other cards, but it's definitely doing it, and it's doing it at a budget. This is a really, really big effect, and I like to make accommodations for sort of really big effects. Something like this could be a huge Anthem that lets you attack in for the win or really tangle with your opponent's board. This is splashy, and I definitely like Harmonious Archon, and I think it's worth more than 44 cents. I guess it's because it's a mythic from a very recent set. Okay, that is the last white creature. Let's move on to some white artifacts. Mace of the Valiant. 2 and a white for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Mace of the Valiant and has vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a charge counter on Mace of the Valiant. It has equipped for 3. So for 6 mana, you can play and equip this, and immediately it only gives vigilance. But every creature you play will pump it up +1/+1. Now, this is really far away from the best equipment out there. There's lots of better equipment, but equipment are actually quite pricey. Let's look for some equipment, and we'll see what we mean about the price tag of equipment. Let's try to find something a little bit comparable in applying power and toughness. Maybe Blackblade Reforged might be good, but again, the cheapest one is over $1. It is a good looking promo one. Oh, this spellbook is $150. That's a good looking one, but that is just a raw power and toughness equipment. That could be a good comparison. Maybe a piece of equipment that might be a little bit better is, Conqueror's Flail is pretty good, but that doesn't exactly give us a point of comparison, and it's $10. Some other good pieces of equipment. Maybe this is budget Imperial Plate, coming in at just 40 cents. So maybe this is a point of comparison where it's often giving creatures +3/+3 or +4/+4. That could be pretty good. Embercleave is amazing, but that's got some price tag to it. But when it comes to equipment, I really feel like you could fit a lot of stuff in. Forebear's Blade, again, 68 cents, 37 cents. Okay, this is a good replacement as well. Forebear's Blade with 3 to equip and 3 to cast. So some of these equipments out here can be really, really powerful. Godsend, $10, $11 for Godsend, jeez. Grafted War Gear might be expensive, a little over $1. I really wish all of these sort of gave trample. Hammer of Nozanne is a lot of power, +2/+0. Oh, $20, jeez. This is probably pretty good. Equipped creature gets +X/+X. It's mana cost, and that's 34 cents as well. So there definitely is some budget equipment out there that you can use in your deck. But some of the best pieces of equipment are kind of pricey, and a lot of them are over $1. Like this Luxodon's Warhammer has been reprinted a bajillion times, and it still sits right around $1. It does buff things quite a bit. But Mace of the Valiant has this potential for getting to be huge, like really, really big. Notice it says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control. That's not just cast. that's just entering the battlefield. So if you're flickering something in and out, or if you just play Harmonious Archon, then suddenly this gets 3 +1/+1 counters. This can get out of control really quickly and really easily, especially in a token deck. And all you need is a little bit of evasion, a little bit of trample, and then Mace of the Valiant can just be a must-answer threat. So I think that this has a higher upside than a lot of other equipment out there, and the price tag being 25 cents is exactly right. Let's go on to Parhelion 2. Now, this is a game-ending card, and I think it's really difficult to find game-ending, powerful cards at this price point. It's just very, very difficult. Let's read Parhelion 2. 6 white for a 5/5 legendary artifact vehicle. It has flying, first strike, and vigilance. When Parhelion 2 attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. It does have a massive crew 4, which is pretty difficult. This is a big commitment, especially on an artifact. It costs 8. You need 4 to finally crew this. And then when you finally attack, I mean, it pays off. Getting 2 Sarah Angels along with it is very, very good. So unanswered, this will win the game, like completely and totally. The problem is that it's really vulnerable. I'm not thrilled about having this as labeled a staple of our format, but it is a game ender on a budget. And so often that's really, really hard to get. Let's take a look at some of the powerful game enders that we can in white. So if we go over here to white, we're going to see cards like Elish Dorn, or let's see here. Let's find some other really powerful game ending. Oh, Elspeth Sun's Champion. This can totally take over a game. $17. Cathar's Crusade. Game ender can take over a game. $5.50, and it doesn't work on its own. Elish Norn, $23. Okay. Oh, Avacyn definitely takes over a game. $38. Okay, you can see where I'm getting at. Even, okay, this might be the best budget takeover game. Mirror Entity can definitely take over a game, but still just under $3, and very similar to Cathar's Crusade, you need like token producers or something else to help take over the game. What else? Oh, Luminarch's Ascension can definitely win a game on its own, close to $7. Here we go. This is the budget win the game on its own, Approach of the Second Sun. But not all of us want to play this style of card. I don't even think that this is a commander staple. So we can see how some of these cards that are most often played maybe don't fit our budget and don't really go along with exactly what we want. Is there any other win on the spots? I love how Archangel of Thune can take over a game. That's $23. Jeez. Zatalpa might be a good, yeah, $150. There we go. Zatalpa can definitely take over a game. It can definitely win out of nowhere. Powerful on its own. 8-drop Zatalpa coming in at $150. Definitely not budget. But now is Zatalpa 10 times better than Parhelion? 14 cents versus $1.40. It might actually be in terms of winning the game because it has this indestructibility. So maybe it is, but that's for you to decide. Oh, I love this combo too. Gisela and Bruna, that can definitely win a game, but we're talking about a lot of money. God Eternal Ketra, again, a lot of money. Okay. That's why, and that, by the way, that's not weird. It's not weird that these big splashy win the game cards are expensive. That's a common phenomenon, and that's why I want to pay attention when I think that something can fill that role for just 14 cents. Okay, moving on. Let's go into enchantments. Sacred Mesa is 2 and a white. For an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Sacred Mesa unless you sacrifice a Pegasus. 1 and a white, put a 1/1 white Pegasus creature token with flying onto the battlefield. All right, we just mentioned, I'm just going to scroll back up to it. We just mentioned Luminarch's Ascension. This has some hoops that you jump through, which is very easy. You don't have to sacrifice anything, but then you create 4/4 angels for 2 mana. So we can see that there's definitely a power disparity between the two of these, but let me assure you that creating Pegasuses is not bad. and the cost of just 2 mana to keep this Sacred Mesa around is quite good. I've often just pumped out huge amounts of Pegasuses and just had them take over the game slowly. And this is 27 cents. This card is quite good and can synergize so well with so many of these other cards. Imagine these turning into 3/3 flyers because of your Archon. Imagine sacrificing them to your World Queller. Imagine equipping them with a Mace. It's quite good. Or imagine pumping them up with Commander's Insignia. Now, there are a lot of different Anthem effects in white. Some of them I was torn on whether I would actually include one, because I don't know if it's actually a staple in our format. But, you know, I found out that it really does help push through a lot of damage. I kind of like the ones that are attached to creatures. Angel of Invention makes dudes and pumps your creatures. Angel of Jubilation has some excellent text on it. I love that players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities. That means you're shutting down their fetch lands. But let's take a look at these two. Angel of Invention is going to be just a little bit expensive at $250, but Angel of Jubilation is going to be like $4. Okay, still not that bad for this effect. Benevolent Marshal will be pretty inexpensive at under $1.60. Ooh, 48 cents. This might be one of the cards that you want to include. But when I'm thinking about the highest upside, it's got to be Commander's Insignia. I've played games where this could be +3/+3 in the late game. And in the late game, that's exactly what you want. I know that this, well, it could do nothing. And that's really sad that it could come out and do nothing. But I think in Commander, if you're playing on a budget, you might want to take the chance that it will end up coming down and play a really large role. You can also lean into this. If you have a commander where you're going to be playing it multiple times and you know it's a big part of your game plan, or you know it's going to die, it's cheap, costs 2 or 3 mana, so you can play it 3 or 4 times without it being impossible, then I think the Commander's Insignia could be good. One other budget backup is this Force of Virtue. 44 cents, straight out of Modern Horizons. It has Flash. So that means that this is a combat trick along with an Anthem. That is not to be discounted. And also you can play it for free if you're on defense. I don't know, but I really do like the Flash Anthem of this. So if you're not excited about the other one, then this could be the really good budget Anthem for you. Gideon Alab Zendikar is a really strong Anthem, $13, blah. The classic is Glorious Anthem, just for so boring, but I honestly think it's too boring. You don't really want that on a creature. Okay, there's a lot of anthems. Let's move on to something. Actually, I want to go for Sildevi. One more anthem that I think is definitely underplayed, and it's this Sultari Champion. $1.15, totally reasonable. 2 and a white for a 2/2 Sultari Soldier. It has Shadow, which means it can only block or be blocked by creatures with Shadow, which means that no one's ever going to block this. Whenever it attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So this is a creature that then anthems everything else, and it pretty reliably gets in for damage. I'm actually a really strong proponent of this, because a lot of times creature decks want more creatures. They don't necessarily want enchantments. So this could be a good fit and maybe go alongside that Benevolent Marshal that I mentioned earlier. Okay, let's move on to the next white card, and we've transitioned into, we're talking about quite possibly the most powerful white card that I can imagine, Martyrs Bond. 4 white for an enchantment. Whenever Martyrs Bond or another non-land permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a permanent that shares a card type with it. Whoa. This is amazing. If you look at cards like Grave Pact, oh my gosh, there's so many grave things. If you look at a card like Grave Pact, which has taken over games, which has dominated games, and is in the $15 range. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. It's basically the same effect. Whenever your creatures go to the graveyard, your opponents have to do the same thing. Erebos. Dictate of Erebos. This is going to be in the $7 range. Okay. Like, this is the same thing. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Yeah, the flash, whatever, but this is 5 mana. People play that. It's $7 and change. It's very good. And now suddenly we have 1 more mana at 6 in white, a color that might need this, and it starts applying to literally every permanent type we have. A planeswalker dies, everyone sacrifices a planeswalker. This is really great with cards that sacrifice themselves, that end up in the graveyard, like, oh my gosh, Mind Stone. There we go. Cards like Mind Stone. You know, we draw a card and then suddenly everyone's sacrificing an artifact. This could be great. Just imagine that bounty agent that we had a second ago. Sacrifice the bounty agent. It ends up in the graveyard and suddenly you kill something and then the trigger goes on the stack where, you know, everything is ending up dying. Bauble. I'm going to type in Bauble and there's going to be a few baubles. I like Wayfarers Bauble. This used to be budget. You could get lands in mono white, but now it's $2.50. This literally used to be like 50 cents. It's crazy the way prices have gone right now. This should be reprinted and you should be able to get them for 5 cents. But it is honestly good and it's not worth $2.25 though. Anyways, let's just say you sacrifice this and suddenly everyone else is sacrificing their soul rings or their other forms of ramp. It's really good. Same thing could be with Mishra's Bauble and Urza's Bauble. This was reprinted $8. Urza's Bauble's cheap, especially if you get a white border one. 5th edition one, $133. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, let's get back to this powerful effect, Martyrs Bond. Literally, it's a Grave Pact, it's a Dictate of Erebos. It can synergize with a lot of your creatures that you already have, your artifacts you already have. You have a Planeswalker die and suddenly you're sacrificing really powerful effects. It's amazing. I'm wholeheartedly surprised it doesn't see more play. And at 32 cents, you need to go out and buy one right now. Just like right now. All right, let's talk about the white instance, Ephemerate. Ephemerate is a Cloud Shift. Cloud Shift is just exile a creature you control, return it to the battlefield under your control. Ephemerate is exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Same thing, except for it has a rebound. That just means it's a 2-for-1, it's a double blink. This is used in competitive formats with Spell Seeker a lot. Spell Seeker, how many things have spell in it? 63 cards have spell in it. Spell Seeker lets you get 1 CMC cards, and it ends up being very, very good because you get Ephemerate. Here we go. There's the Spell Seeker, which is going to be expensive, $15. But here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you don't need this $15 card to make this 10-cent card work. I'm just saying that this 10-cent card is good enough that a bunch of people are using it. Oh, look at that Spellseeker. Have I seen this Judge Gift Spellseeker? I think I have. Oh my gosh, I love it. Get me one of those. Actually, this art is really, really awesome. I do like both of these arts. That's so cool. Okay, I got distracted. I'm sorry. Anyways, you point Ephemerate at the Spellseeker, then it gets exiled and it comes back again, then you get another 1-drop, and then you get to blink something else. Blinking stuff is just really good. It can blank your opponent's removal, it can rebuy enter the battlefield effects. Just from some of the cards on this list already, you can blink things like your Angel of Sanctions to reset what you end up taking out. Don't blink your token that you get. You can blink the Archon to be able to get 2 more 3/3s. There it is. And there's a ton of cards that have really great enter the battlefield effects. I love Ephemerate. It's a solid card in any blink deck. But staple status is definitely given to a card like Brought Back. Now, white ends up struggling in many areas, and Brought Back really shores that up. White has a problem with ramp. Well, I mean, if you sacrifice your Wayfarers Bauble to get a land, and then you pay 2 more mana to bring back that Wayfarers Bauble, you've kind of ramped. Same thing goes with any sort of fetch land, a Terramorphic Expanse or an Evolving Wilds. Just sacrifice it to get a land and then bring it back again. Then that becomes a 2-mana ramp spell. We would adore that in white. Granted, it does require some hoops, but I adore it anyways. But it does more than that. If your opponent's board wipe, you're normally very sad. Remember I talked about a Dark Art Valkyrie, how the board wipe protection was a key piece of that? Not just like stealing fun creatures that happen to die, but board wipe protection. Brought back is board wipe protection at its best. Your opponent wipes the board and suddenly 2 of your best creatures are back on the battlefield. That's amazing. You sacrifice things like a Commander Sphere or even one of the other baubles or a Mind Stone, and then to draw a card, and immediately you get it back again. That's great. You sacrifice something because of a World Queller, or because your opponents end up killing it and you bring it right back again. This feels like sort of a counterspell or a workaround or really anything. It's so versatile and it gives you that level of protection. When we think about protection in white, let's talk about what protection really means. And I mean, it just has us thinking of Teferi's protection, $42. Ugh. That's out of control. But other forms of protection, I know that this is in green, but Heroic Intervention is a form of protection, and it's $17. Like Boros Charm. Again, this is in red as well, but this is another form of protection, and it's always at a couple bucks. No matter how many times they reprint it. It's in a guild kit, for gosh sakes, and it's $3 or $4. Okay. This is the price we pay for protection. And I know that each one of these protects in a different way, and you might argue that Brought Back doesn't protect that well, but it does provide a level of protection and a big level of utility. I love it. And at 44 cents, I consider this a staple, 100% in white. Okay, let's go after Crush Contraband. We need to get, it's 3 in a white for, it's 3 in a white for an instant. Choose one or both, exile target artifact, exile target enchantment. All right, simple, straightforward, 4 mana, kill 2 things, 21 cents. Okay, this effect hasn't been that expensive anyways. One thing that I really want to go down in price is Heliod's Intervention, because this is Crush Contraband that's a little bit more flexible. And you know what? This is not breaking the bank. I would actually splurge on this, and I think that this is going to be a new staple. Heliod's Intervention is X white, choose one, destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments. Now this doesn't exile, it just destroys, but it has the flexibility of just taking out 1 or taking out 3 depending upon your mana. Target player gains twice X life. Yeah, this is usually not the mode, but it could be the mode. Just say if you're about to die, you need to gain some life, then that becomes the mode that you pick for sure. Heliod's Intervention should be the go-to card, but Crush Contraband is so solid, you definitely should be playing it. 21 cents is cheap, and there are tons of cards that have approximated this effect that have made it into the staple category. Crush Contraband is great. Right, we're almost done with white. In fact, we have finished the white category. All right, I'm gonna take a little break right now, and then we're gonna come back and talk about, let's go through WUBRG, all of the blue cards. All right, everyone, see you in a minute. Hey everyone, I'm back, and I actually took a little bit longer break than I thought, and I'm probably only going to do a couple colors each time. So we're going to do blue right now to pair with white, and then I'm going to post another video later with some of the other colors. But let's jump right in and talk about our first blue card, and that's Loyal Drake. Loyal Drake is a 3 mana 2/2. That's 2 and a blue for a 2/2 flying Drake. It has Lieutenant. That means at the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control your commander, draw a card. So you're going to be playing this in blue decks where you are likely to have your commander out, and you probably want the body of this Loyal Drake. 3 mana for a card every turn is a really good rate, but if you need 2 hoops to get there, your commander out and a dude, maybe it's not that great because, for example, for 4 mana, there's Kumena's Awakening. That's actually a pretty good card. You're gonna have the City's Blessing in Commander, and if you don't for a couple turns, it's not like a huge deal. Loyal Drake is a Wind Drake, a bad creature in Commander, if you don't happen to have your Commander out. So maybe Kumena's Awakening might be more reliable card draw, but it is very cool to have this card around. And at 14 cents, yeah, that's a pretty good price. And if you are running an aggressive blue deck and have your commander out, then this could gain a lot of card advantage. Again, you're gonna kind of want to have the body. Okay, moving on to Archaeomancer. 2 blue for a 1/2 human wizard. Whenever Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Eternal Witness is like $6 probably. I don't know, it's been reprinted so many times, but it's a good card. And Archaeomancer is great. Having this effect on a body gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can kind of bring it back, mess around with this human wizard. Wizard's an important archetype or an important creature type. Same thing with human. And so this just is really, really strong. Blue decks often have lots of instants and sorceries. And so it's not Eternal Witness, but it's pretty good. Moving on, we have Whirler Rogue. This is 2 blue for a 2/2 human rogue artificer. When Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter creature artifact tokens with flying, and you can tap 2 artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. This is a lot of text. This is great in blink decks because you can just blink it and you get 2 more artifacts. Cards like Brago really like Whirler Rogue because you can give your Brago unblockable, then get in the damage, and then flicker Whirler Rogue to do more things. Honestly, it's that tapping 2 artifacts then making something unblockable is really, really good. 2/2s and 1/1s, yeah, they're not that impressive in our format, but giving a big old creature unblockable, making sure you can get damage in, that is impressive. There are also a few different cards that have effects if they remain untapped. So for example, Howling Mine, the card name, Howling Mine. Howling Mine. At the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card. So what you can do is you can use Whirler Rogue to tap Howling Mine, and then you're the only one getting the effect of this. Same thing goes for Winter Orb. Okay, this is like an old way of formatting in Commander, or in Magic. As long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap steps. So this can work in stacks strategies, and Brago can be a stack strategy, like Flicker can be a strategy where you kind of like eke out little bits of advantage as you flicker your stuff. And those 2 cards combo nicely with Whirler Rogue, even though they're both kind of expensive. Like $8 for this Winter Orb, jeez. Okay. Whirler Rogue is just really solid. Wonder. Wonder is amazing. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 incarnation with flying. As long as Wonder is in your graveyard and you control an island, creatures you control have flying. Giving your whole team flying is kind of like Whirler Rogue's giving unblockable. If your whole team has flying, you're gonna be able to get through for damage, and some of your bigger creatures are gonna be able to get through easier. Another card that's kind of similar to this is Archetype of Imagination. This is 6 mana for a 3/2. Creatures you control have flying. Creatures your opponents control lose flying and can't have or gain flying. If let's just like forget that Reach exists, this basically makes your whole team unblockable for 6 mana. It used to be actually like 10 cents, and for some reason it's gone up, even though it was reprinted in 2018. 43 cents feels like a lot for an uncommon, so it didn't quite make my list. But yeah, especially because some of my most expensive cards on this list are just under 50 cents, like 45 cents. But this is still a really good card, and it has a pretty similar effect to Wonder. Looking at Wonder, 38 cents, so it has a similar sort of thing. I also really like that Wonder doesn't have to stay on the battlefield to give this effect. It gets it when it's in your graveyard, so it really is robust. Like any way of getting this in your graveyard, milling or it dying, or you discarding it or whatever, and then suddenly you have this big bonus. Archetype of Imagination, someone's just like, destroy an enchantment, kill your creature. Suddenly your big attack, your big way of closing out the game is gone. So Wonder has that level of protection by working in your graveyard. I love it. All right, moving on to I think this is my favorite board wipe. I really do. It's a board wipe on a creature. It's Ixodron. 3 blue for a star illusion. As Ixodron enters the battlefield, turn all other non-token creatures face down. They're 2/2 creatures. Ixodron's power and toughness are each equal to the number of face-down creatures on the battlefield. By the way, star means that it will change. And so as creatures die, or as you create more face-down creatures, Ixodron's power and toughness will go down and up, or whatever. So eventually, if you actually do end up board wiping all those face-down creatures away, Ixodron will die. But that's okay. This is basically a board wipe, and the fact that it leaves behind a big creature is just great. Okay, I know I keep calling it a board wipe, but that's really what it is, because turning your creatures into 2/2s is not really a cost in Commander. Like, having 2/2s is like, they might as well be removed. And in many situations, this is better than removing creatures. You send a creature to the graveyard, and oftentimes it's not gone. It's on its way back. The graveyard is a very powerful resource. Same thing with the command zone. You send a creature to the command zone, and they're just going to cast it again. You know, and there's not really other ways to get rid of it. You bounce it back to their hand. They can send it to the command zone if they want to. You exile it command zone. You put it in their library. You used to be able to tuck commanders. Now you can't do that anymore. They can just put it back in the command zone. Stranding their commanders on the battlefield is the only way that we have to really get rid of them. And so Ixodron does that. It strands them on the battlefield and makes them a dumb 2/2. Oh, it's really nice. I like it a lot. Okay. Next we have Thrix of the Sudden Storm. So the body is great. 3 blue for a 4/5 elemental giant with flash and flying. Spells you cast with the converted mana cost 5 or greater, cost 1 less to cast, and can't be countered. I love the mana reduction on big spells. We are a big spell format, and so being able to just make them slightly more affordable is great. I mostly like that they can't be countered, because this means that your big splashy spell, your game-winning spell, has fewer things that you can interact with it. It's really good. I'm thinking, when usually I think about things that don't want to be countered, I tell people to use Boseiju. Boseiju? Oh my gosh, I got it right. Boseiju, Who Shelters All. This is a land that comes on the battlefield tapped, but you can generate mana. You have to pay 2 life and add 1 mana to your mana pool. And then if you spend it on an instant or sorcery, it can't be countered. By the way, this is a $20 card, basically. I know. But this is my answer to people that want to land a big spell. Like, I don't know, I'm thinking of like a big spell that I would want to cast, like a Torment of Hailfire or something like that. You know, you're in black and blue, and this is your big spell that you're going to do, you know, or, you know, something else, who knows. But there's a lot of big spells that can sort of end the game in Commander. Your Expropriate or something like that. I know I'm naming expensive spells. But Thrix can really like make sure that those spells land, and that can be really, really important. So I am a big fan of Thrix, even if it is just like a roadblock in the way of your big mana deck. And this is any spell too. So it's just like, you know, Eldrazi, like you play an Eldrazi and suddenly bam, it can't be countered. It's really great. Okay. And also, like, who wants to be playing against counter decks anyways? Like, you want like defenses against counter decks, because counters are good and people should be saving their counter spells for game-winning plays, like plays that cost 5 or more. Okay, Sphinx of Athun. This is a great card to blink. 5 blue for a 5/6 Sphinx. It's got flying, and when it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. The opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put one in your hand and the other in your graveyard. This is Fact or Fiction on a dude. I'm going to talk about how great Fact or Fiction is, and that's a 4 mana spell. This adds 3 more mana, and you get a 5/6 flyer. Wait, what? 3 more mana for a 5/6 flyer? Wow! Like, that is really good. I think Fact or Fiction is an incredibly fun and interactive and powerful spell, so the more copies of this I have in my deck, the better. And attaching it to a creature means that I can recur it, I can blink it, I can find ways to manipulate it. And so Sphinx of Athun, especially coming in at 14 cents, is something that I really want in my deck. And then attacking for 5 in the air is also no joke. Like, a lot of these cards that have evasion and flying, like this 5/6 flyer right here, the 4/5 flyer, you know, Ixodron, if it has, you know, flying with wonder and stuff like that, like it's, or unblockable with Whirler Rogue, like these kinds of effects really do end games. And so Sphinx of Athun can give you so much card advantage. Okay, that's it for my creatures in blue. There were not as many creatures in blue as a lot of other colors because I think blue really shines when it comes to sort of its instants and sorceries. This is, though, 1 mana rock that I have put in more decks than I think any other modern card, and that's Midnight Clock. 3 in a blue for a mana rock, basically. You can tap it to add blue to your mana pool. And in a blue deck, that's fine. It's not like super duper great, but it's fine. Like manoliths are something that you could totally end up playing. Usually you want your mana rock to do a little bit more or be like 2 CMC or fix your colors, whatever. But like, honestly, this is totally good. But then you add on to it the clause of draw a whole new hand, like draw 7. That's crazy. And people are put off by Midnight Clock. You know, let me finish reading it. 2 in a blue, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards, exile Midnight Clock. So the reason why people don't like this is because it's unpredictable. Ideally, you would want to know exactly when you are exiling your hand and drawing 7 new cards. And the fact that this could happen on an opponent's turn, I mean, I don't know. You don't have as much control over this, especially in multiplayer. But actually, in multiplayer, this happens faster. You know, this is 6 turns in 1v1. You know, like, okay, I play Midnight Clock, your turn, 1 counter. My turn 2, your turn 3, my turn 4, your turn 5, my turn 6, your turn 7. Like, that's so long. That's so long that basically you need to invest blue mana into this to finally get it to go. In Commander, it's like, okay, I cast it, then your turn, next person's turn, the next person's turn, you know, back around to my turn. And then suddenly you're a third of the way there, you're a quarter of the way there. Okay, that's great. Now, people don't really like the fact that it is unpredictable, that you just kind of have to throw away your cards. Like, well, what if I had cards in my hand that I wanted? What if I wanted this mana ramp longer and I'm disappointed that it's gone? Okay, use the mana ramp when you have it, cast something extra, and then embrace the draw cards. If you just draw 3 cards off of this silly little clock, sure. Just think about this if it's in its worst case scenario. And think about all your cards as awesome. Like, no card is like truly that much better than the others. If you have a little bit of extra mana for a couple turns and then this draws 2 or 3 cards, that's like the best divination I could ever imagine. Midnight Clock is very good. And if you play around it effectively and it slots into your deck really well, this can be just a slam dunk. Drawing you 4, 5, or 6 cards, ramping you exactly when you need it, and when you don't need the ramp, it suddenly turns into card advantage. Like, it's really, really good. You should be playing it. All right, Omen of the Sea is an enchantment. You know, it's basically Ponder. 2 in a blue for an enchantment. It has flash, so you can play it anytime. When Omen of the Sea enters the battlefield, scry 2, then draw a card. You can sacrifice Omen of the Sea to scry 2 for 2 in a blue. If we look over here at Pre-Ordained, no, Ponder or Pre-Ordained? I was getting mixed up. I think it might be Ponder. Nope. But still, I look at Ponder and it's $1.50 to $2. Okay. And then I look at Pre-Ordained and it's $4. scry 2, then draw a card. Let's go over here. Enters the battlefield, scry 2, then draw a card. Okay, I know that for the majority of formats, the difference between 1 mana and 2 mana is crazy. 2 mana is unplayable, and 1 mana is too powerful for Modern. Do you know what I mean? But Omen of the Sea is for Commander. Like, it's going to be for Commander. Like, 2 mana is totally fine. We have the life, we have the mana advantage to be able to absorb this hit in tempo. Not to mention the fact that it has an added benefit of scrying 2 for 3. That's bad, but it's still gravy. And then also just the fact that it's an enchantment means that it can trigger devotion, or it can trigger other enchantment effects. And so I am a big fan of Omen of the Sea. Also, like, it's a permanent too. So like certain things that affect permanence, like the Sun Titan can bring it back, or Muldrotha can cast it from the graveyard. Ooh, Muldrotha from the graveyard. I like that. And it gets into the graveyard for Muldrotha. I mean, that's just some value right there. Triggering ETB effects, like being a permanent can be a big deal. So this is just a solid card draw in blue. Okay, Corrupted Conscience. This is one of my favorite control magic effects. Control magic is not a very splashy card. It's probably going to be pretty cheap. They reprinted it at Uncommon, 51 cents. Okay, for control magic. 4 mana, you control an enchanted creature. Great. Okay, this is less than that, 37 cents. 5 mana, 1 additional mana, you control enchanted creature. Awesome. Great. It's just a little bit cheaper. Oh, enchanted creature has Infect. That changes the whole dynamic of the creature. Infect is incredibly powerful. The way that we can take a look at this is, let's just look at, I'm going to type in Infect. Oh, that's not it. Okay, and we're going to look at the mana cost to power and toughness ratio of Infect creatures. 4 mana for 2 power, 2 mana for 1 power, 4 mana for 2 power. Wow, 6 mana for 5 power? What is this? Oh, can't attack unless defending player is poisoned. Blah. 4 mana for 2 power, 4 mana for 2 power. So we're seeing that the power to casting costs sort of ratio of Infect creatures. Like, here's the thing, Glistener Elf is very good that it's a 1-to-1, but like this Flesh Eater Imp 4-to-2, you know, stuff like that. Okay. So it appears that it's almost double the normal rate. Like, if you were to take a normal creature and make it Infect, you'd have to double its mana cost to make it fairly costed. But Corrupted Conscience, like, does this for free, kind of. Actually does it for kind of like 1 mana, because control magic is 4 mana control, and this is 5. So it's like 1 additional generic mana, and suddenly you're doubling the power of the creature that you're stealing. Just imagine that too. It's like you're doubling its power. You're really amping it up to make it a really powerful creature, like a really strong effect. And people argue that Infect in Commander is already really powerful, because normally you'd have to get to 40 damage, but instead with Infect, it's only 10 poison. And so you're taking creatures and really amping up their power level and making them more and more dangerous than they were before. One thing that's also really significant is that if you find a hard time getting Corrupted Conscience on the right creature, like, you could put it on your own creature. This could just be 5 mana, turn your own creature into an Infect creature. And that can sometimes win a game. Let's actually take a look at that. If I were to look up the card, if I were to go back to Infect and remember the name of that equipment, oh, there it is, Grafted Exoskeleton. If I were to sort of turn a creature Infect, that's 6 mana. By the way, that's $2. That is not that expensive for turning something Infect, by the way. But that's 6 mana, you know? For turning something Infect and pumping it up a little bit. This is Grafted Exoskeleton, by the way, is a very good card. But it's certainly not 37 cents. Okay. So really strong power level here. Flexibility of taking your opponent's creatures. Flexibility of just turning something Infect. Really just changing the dynamic of the game. And honestly, you don't have to have an infect deck to have this be truly impactful. Like, really great. All right, Future Sight. This is one of my favorite draw spells in blue. 2 blue. Enchantment, play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library. Okay, this doesn't feel like a draw spell. It just lets you kind of like have an extra card in your hand, right? In fact, the original version is you may play the top card of your library as though it was in your hand. But the way that this ends up playing out is that if there's ever a land on top of your library, you've drawn that card and you've played it for free. Okay. If there's ever a spell on the top of your library, well, cast it, and then go to the next card underneath. And oftentimes you can cast that too. Remember, Commander is a game of big mana, and Future Sight is the best when you have a lot of mana because you can play multiple cards off the top of your library. Remember I talked about Kumena's Awakening? Kumena's Awakening. And now this is 4 mana, draw a card every turn, tiny hoop you have to jump through. Okay. I like Future Sight a little bit more than Kumena's Awakening because it has the opportunity to go so much bigger. It has the opportunity to let you, play 2 or 3 cards off the top of your library. So I do like Future Sight a lot. But if you are playing a deck that really is reactive, like a counterspell heavy deck, maybe Future Sight isn't that great because if you have a counterspell on top, like you're just not going to play counterspell. It's just going to sit there and they're going to know that your counterspell is sitting there too. So Future Sight really works well with an active deck, one that's going out and really making an impact on the board. And then if you want some raw card draw, maybe Kumena's Awakening is good. I think that 40 cents is doable, right? I'd like this to be 20 cents, but whatever, it's fine. All right. Next, after Future Sight is the Murari Conjecture. This is that Archaeomancer. Yeah, but taken up a notch. This is the Saga version of it. All right. 5 mana. This is 1 more than the Archaeomancer, but it just is an enchantment that enters the battlefield. Return target instant card from your graveyard to your hand. Fine. In Commander, we're going to have instant cards in our graveyard. We're going to need to make sure that we have a saturation of them, but this is very clearly a late game card. Okay, next turn, return a sorcery card to our hand. Totally fine too. We're going to have like draw spells and cantrips and all sorts of stuff like that. Okay. The third one, until your end of turn, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay. Copying spells is very good and very powerful. If we talk about copying target spells, like some of them are inexpensive, but a lot of them are quite expensive. And things like Twin Cast. I think Twin Cast is the... Did I type twin incorrectly? Oh, the Oracle is twin. All right, Twin Cast. I think that this is sort of the baseline level of, okay, well, this is just a copy spell. It literally says copy target instant sorcery spell. You may choose new targets to the copy. This is coming in at $350, which is a pretty expensive card. But one thing that's really significant is that you still have to pay 2 blue mana in addition to the spell in order to actually copy it. This just auto copies everything. And so you're much more likely to be able to play 2 relevant spells and automatically copy them with the Murari Conjecture than you are to be able to twin cast another single spell. So the fact that it is a Saga and it will trigger on the 3rd turn and sort of give you this special doubling up turn for free is very good. Honestly, this card would be really good if it only returned one thing and then set it up. The only downside is that people see this coming. It definitely takes time for the Murari Conjecture to go off, but in any Spell Slinger deck, this card is bonkers, okay? And in Commander, we're going to be playing big cards. I mean, here's the thing. If you're just casting if you're getting back a Brainstorm and casting it again and doubling it up, that's worth 5 mana. 100% that's worth 5 mana. And Brainstorm isn't even that good, okay? But if you are casting multiple spells, this is just amazing. And for the price, crazy. Okay. Disdainful Stroke. Man, Counterspell is actually kind of expensive. And the best counterspells are actually a little bit of money, which is really disappointing. $1.50 for a counterspell? It's just counter target spell, but like, yeah. Honestly, it's a little bit sad that it's that expensive for just a very simple card, an uncommon. You know, is it an uncommon? And this might even be a common in Mystery Booster. Yeah, it's a common in Mystery Booster. It's ridiculous, but there we go. Like, it's just that expensive. But so the fact that we have Disdainful Stroke at 11 cents is great. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater. That's a lot of spells. Like in most of Magic, like Modern and Vintage or whatever, everything is low CMC. Like it's like this is a big drawback. But in Commander, it almost feels like this is countering exactly what you'd want to counter. Like, yeah, you might miss Ramp and Mana Rocks, but honestly, I would not aim your counters at Ramp and Mana Rocks. I would really save it for the big impactful spells that save you from losing the game. I think the only way that Disdainful Stroke falls short is being able to answer that removal. Like, they aim a Swords to Plowshares at your creature and you can't counter it, you know? They aim a Beast Within or, you know, a Generous Gift. Even those Chaos Warp, those ubiquitous cards, and you can't counter it. But honestly, the best counterspells, the ones I like the most, are expensive. I think one of my favorite counterspells is Swan Song, and it's going to be a couple bucks. Almost $5.50, almost $6. See, that's disappointing. That's way too much for counterspells. And then if we take the worst counterspell in the world, 7 cents. But then you're playing 6 cents. But then you're playing Cancel. I would be really, really happy if what's it called? See, again, if you don't know what something's called, you just go and look it up. I'm just gonna look up all the counterspells and talk to you about it. Oh no, and all the things that have counters on it. What have I done? By the way, Arcane Denial is great. It's gonna be over $1. Yep. Oh, 50 cents, 45 cents for the original Alliances art. Dude, Arcane Denial is something that you guys need to pick up. 45 cents should make my list. Here's why Arcane Denial is amazing. Is it good to give your opponent 2 cards to draw? No, of course not. Okay, but the thing is that in multiplayer games, I would rather make sure that I keep my own tempo than giving one opponent a little bit of extra tempo, because Arcane Denial says that I will also replace it. I will draw my card, you know? So yes, I'm giving my opponent a card and losing card advantage. And in 1v1, that's bad. But in multiplayer, I care more about making sure I don't hurt myself more than I do about helping one other opponent a tiny bit. So Arcane Denial is very, very good in my opinion, and 45 cents is something you could do. Archmage's Charm, I looked at it, it's $3, but I really do love this counterspell as well. I also really like the next 60 cards. I dislike Cancel, so please don't play Cancel. There are better versions. I'm going to show you some of the better versions right now. I'm still just on C. Man, this is not good. I mean, Cryptic Command, no, don't. We're not even looking at Cryptic Command. That's expensive. I really like Delay, but this is also expensive, $6. Yeah. Deprive. I don't like Deprive. Anytime you have to return something, like I actually think that's pretty bad. Don't play Deprive. I think that the tempo hit is bad. Disallow is going to be off. Okay, at least it's not like $8. $5. I love Disallow. Being able to counter an activated ability or triggered ability is so good, because some of these enter the battlefield effects or these Planeswalker abilities or Planeswalker Ultimate are more powerful than spells themselves. So Disallow is really a catch-all to be able to answer all of those things. If you are looking for a counter spell, I actually think that Dissolve and Dissipate, they're at least a little bit better than Cancel. I also like, I like the one that has Scry on it. I might be going too fast here. Oh man, Forbid. 41 cents. It's a world champ deck. All right, we've spent too much time just talking about counter spells when honestly, I think if you're a beginning Magic player, if you're a budget Magic player, you should not be going all in on counter spells. Really, I think it's setting yourself up for failure because counter spells are a big tempo hit to you. In a multiplayer game, you are using one of your resources reactively to answer a threat of someone else's. And then there's two other players at the table that are like, cool, we're not down a single card, we're doing just fine. And so if you keep putting yourself at a disadvantage just to answer one opponent, you're just pushing the other two further and further ahead. That's why I like Arcane Denial a lot, is because it doesn't put yourself down a card to push two other players sort of out in front of you. I think the counter spells are really good when you have something really, really powerful to do and you need to answer someone else or you need to defend your counter. That's why free counter spells are really good. Mana Drain. How much is this now? It's over $100. It's so broken though. Mana Drain is so broken. Oh my gosh. All right. I don't need to keep going through these because I don't think that counters are very good. This is one of my favorite counters, Murder the Mixture. 285, there we go. There's your budget. There's your budget-ish counter spell. Ooh, this got a reprinting. All right. This used to be expensive, Mystic Confluence, but now with a couple reprintings in Battle Bond and Mystery Booster, that's a solid way to counter something and then get some tempo back right there. All right. I've spent way too much time on counter spells. I just feel like I need to give you one more. Just give you one more budget counter spell. Just so that like you can take it, hold on to it, really embrace it, you know? Let's go for... Do you know what? Scatter to the Winds. Well, why not? Like, this is... Okay, Scatter to the Winds. It's got to be cheap. 13 cents. Bam. Great. Okay. It's a 3-mana counter spell. Not great, but whatever. But here's the thing. If you pay 6 mana, you also get to animate a land and turn it into a 3/3. Sold. We are the format of doing big splashy things, and a 6 mana counter to just throw a 3/3 in there is crazy. I also like Sinister Sabotage, by the way. 50 cents is a lot, but Surveil 1 is pretty powerful. I like being able to put cards in my graveyard a lot. It's sort of a better scry, so Sinister Sabotage is my 3-mana budget counter spell of choice. All right. Let's get back to the real list because I got distracted there. I'm sorry. Dream Fracture. I think I like Dream Fracture. Counter target spell, its controller draws a card and you draw a card. Yeah, Dream Fracture would be amazing if it was 2 mana, but at 3 mana, I like Dream Fracture a lot. All right, let's get back on track. Factor, of course. Let's just get our card advantage back with Factor Fiction. It's so good. So good. I love that it's been reprinted so many times. Modern Horizons into Commander 19 into Mystery Booster. Done. Amazing. Also Eternal Masters too. It's great. So 3 and a blue for an instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You can collaborate with someone. You can say like, put the board wipe in that pile with the lands. You know, you can even make deals and get piles of 5 and 0 and take 5 cards. But even if someone's working against you, it's a fun thought exercise of like, well, how do I split these? How do I make the most difficult decision for the opponent? And that's just like a fun mini game to begin with. But if you're just getting a raw 3 cards for 4 mana, great. You know what I mean? Even if the best card is in the other 2, that's fine. And then just imagine if you're digging 5 deep and getting like the exact card you need. That's still a powerful effect. This is good no matter what. You know, a lot of times Punisher cards, like cards where, you know, you have your opponent interact with them are bad. You know, we don't like them. But Fact or Fiction gives you the final choice, which really makes it good. Let me show you another card that was trying to be Fact or Fiction. Was Steam Augury. Okay, 4 mana, and by the way, this is super cheap because everyone hates it. Yeah, 10 cents. It's, by the way, it's not that bad. Okay, Steam Augury. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Excuse me. Separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So this is the exact same card, but suddenly your opponent's the one making the final decision after you split the cards. And this is just unplayable jank. It's so funny that you just switch the dynamic. You switch who makes the final choice, and suddenly you have something that's like that has a meme based after it. Like end of turn Fact or Fiction, good game. Like that's a EOT FOF GG, like is a thing where people used to cast Fact or Fiction at the end of turn and suddenly you're just like, well, can't win, like too powerful. And then you try to do it on Steam Augury and you change one little thing. And I don't know, it just upends it. I think Steam Augury is way more playable than people make it. At 10 cents, I might throw it in a deck and try to get some people with some hard decisions there. But it's not Fact or Fiction. Definitely not. All right, let's talk about draw 7s. Diminishing returns. 2 blue for a sorcery. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library. You exile the top 10 cards of your library, then each player draws up to 7 cards. Okay, let's look at something called Time Twister. This is a $540 card that's banned in several formats and is on the reserve list and part of the Power 9. 2 and a blue sorcery. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard in their library, then draws 7 cards. One more blue mana, okay? And you have to exile the top 10 cards. Okay. The 1 mana is a real cost. The lower cost that these are, the way better they are, because it lets you redeploy your hand. It lets you use those cards sooner. So that 1 mana is a lot. Okay, but is it really that much? I mean, in Commander, when you have a lot of mana, like that 1 mana might not make that big of a difference. Okay, it's not the exact same. You exile the top 10 cards of your library. Okay, that is a real cost. Okay, especially when you're dealing with combo decks. Usually Time Twister is a part of a combination. Competitive decks will use Time Twister. By the way, Time Twister is not banned in our format. It's one of the only Power 9 that is totally legal in our format. Incredibly expensive. People in CDH will use Time Twister loops, where basically, because Time Twister doesn't exile itself, so you can kind of get Time Twister back and then loop things over and over again. So Time Twister does have that really powerful effect. And because then, okay, then the other thing is that this exiles the top 10 cards of your library. That means that this could very easily exile a win condition. It means you can't loop this over and over again because eventually you will exile your entire deck. So those are 2 key areas that definitely make diminishing returns worse. But let's say you're not comboing out. You're not building the top tier deck. You just want that raw card advantage. You just want to, I don't know, you just want to combine it with a Narset Parter of Veils. You know what I mean? Like you just want to refill your hand. You just want to make sure, you just want to have this draw 7 effect. Then why not have one for 34 cents? Like the power level is so high that if you are just wanting raw cards and you just want this sort of effect, then go for it. Even cards like Windfall. I'm sorry if you can hear stuff in the background. even stuff like Windfall is like a couple bucks, right? Yeah, even Windfall is a couple bucks. And that's only sort of a redraw up to the biggest amount. Like this diminishing returns really resets a game. All right, there's a few draw 7s. There's a few draw 7s in the game. And you're going to notice that they all have sort of their downsides. Memory, 6 mana after the fact. Days Undoing, 3 mana, but you can't redeploy any of this because your turn ends. Echo of Aeons, 6 mana. Its flashback is 3. By the way, this is a great card, but it is $6. You know what I mean? Like, we even look at Days Undoing. This is a fine card, $5. I think Commit to Memory is cheap. Still over $1. So we're talking about a powerful effect. This is 7 emergency powers. Game plan. Okay, other people can assist. This could be a good one. 47 cents. So this is your second choice right there. Oh my gosh. Okay, but like, I just honestly think that for the raw card advantage, diminishing returns is very strong. And this mana cost really lets you immediately cycle through your deck and then redeploy important spells. And at 34 cents, it's just so good. All right. Finally, we have Whelming Wave coming in. Oh my gosh, what happened? This used to be under 50. When I put this on my list, it was under 50 cents. And then it somehow doubled or something like that. I don't know if this is worth 60 cents, everyone. Fans. Oh well, I'll still talk about it, even though I'm kind of upset that either I made a mistake and it was more than 50 cents, or that it went past the price tag just in between making this and then putting it out, releasing it. Okay, listen, this bounce effect is pretty good at 4 mana. In fact, I really like. It's not. Extract. I don't remember what it's called. It's not Extract. It is a blue card that says return all. Return all creatures. Evacuation. Okay, Evacuation I think is very strong. It's 5 mana, it's an instant, and it just returns all creatures, and it's $3. Like, but this is a good board wipe. Like, this is a good way of answering creatures. Now we have Whelming Wave. It's coming in at a really reasonable price of just 66 cents. I'm so sad. 62 cents. But it's 4 mana. Return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Everyone is like, oh, I don't have any of those. I don't have any of those, so I shouldn't be playing this card. No. Does your opponent have them? Probably not either. So play this card and have it just be a big bounce. Like, I think that is totally good. You want board wipes, and this is as good as we're getting for board wipes. And then because this is cheap, because it's only 4 mana, then you might have the opportunity to redeploy faster than your opponents. So you might be able to play this and then play a 3-drop. Whereas if you were playing Evacuation, it's pretty good because you can do this on your opponent's turn and then redeploy with all your mana. But some of the other return everythings that are at sorcery speed, like, they don't work very well. I also like Engulf the Shore, by the way. Return to their owner's hands all creatures with toughness less than or equal to the number of islands controlled. This is super budget, 34 cents. Do you know what? Let's go with that. Engulf the Shore is my new budget. My new budget card. Oh my gosh. By the way, also another budget one. Another budget bounce is what? Why is this over $1 now? Everyone's destroying my budget picks, guys. Okay. Washout used to be pennies, and now it's over $1, which makes me sad. But basically, you get to sort of select your board wipe. You get to return all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hands, and so you can kind of aim exactly what you want. This can kind of be a Cyclonic Rift, no, not really. It can kind of be a River's Rebuke, which is what it can kind of be. River's Rebuke is going to be way cheaper than Cyclonic Rift. Just over $1, but this basically lets you choose a target and then they are returning their stuff. So Wash Out, River's Rebuke, all of them over $1. Whelming Wave is a little bit expensive. Let's just say Engulf the Shore is my pick. All right, finally we have raw card advantage. Okay, this is just Treasure Cruise. Delve is not a real cost. Delve is broken. It is so broken. You can easily cast this for just a couple mana and then immediately you're drawing 3 cards. It's just raw card advantage. Even if you get this down to like Concentrate is 4 mana, draw 3 cards. Okay, so even if you get this only reduced down to a couple, even if this is a Concentrate, it's fine. And if you ever get this to 3 mana, then it's like 3 mana, draw 3 cards. That's very good. That's like, there aren't cards like that. Like the closest that you have is like the Concentrate is also cheap. It's also not that great. Like Harmonize in green is very good. Concentrate is like, I don't know about that. If you are interested in other card draw spells, let's take a look at a sorcery. CMC is equal to 4, and it says 7 in the text. Oh my gosh, I'm so good at this. Drawn into Dreams, 77 cents. Yes, this is another really strong draw spell that's under $1. 2 blue, look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is 4 mana. You don't get the raw cards. You know, you don't get 3 cards, you only get 2, but this is the exact 2 that you need. You know, Dig Through Time is kind of a similar effect. Like, I really wish that Dig Through Time didn't just skyrocket in price, because this used to be under $1. Don't pay this much for it. It'll get reprinted or banned in Pioneer. Probably banned in Pioneer before it gets reprinted, and then the price of this will go down and you can buy them for a couple bucks, you know. But Dig Through Time is a really good effect, and then Treasure Cruise is very much on par with it. Dig Through Time gets more selection, and Treasure Cruise is just kind of like raw power. 1 blue, draw 3 cards. Dig Through Time is like instant, more sneaky, look for exactly what you need in 7 cards. But if you want a budget version, Drawn from Dreams, 77 cents. Done. Get your selection and get your raw card advantage to put these 2 together for $1. At less than $1. Go for it. Love it. Love it. All right, everyone. That has been my blue review so far. So we have covered white and blue in this video, and I'm pretty sure I'm like closing in on 2 hours. So that means that we're going to cut it off right here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the other colors later. If you all hate this video, then maybe I won't talk about the other colors. But please let me know in the comments down below. This is kind of designed to be for, I don't know, people that want to get more technical about the cards, you know, really find out what their shortcomings are, what their advantages are. So if you want to talk more in the comments, let's talk about it. Like, let's get better at card evaluation. Let's get better at making these decks and coming up with really strong cards for Commander, because, you know, this game is awesome and it sucks that we have to pay hundreds of dollars to get the cards we want. You know what I mean? To play with fun, powerful cards, you have this push that you're like, well, I want to play with blah, 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 and I can't. You know, I want to play with, I clicked on the wrong thing, but you know, I want to play with Time Twister. I want to play with Draw 7s, and I can't. You know, that feeling sucks. So play with diminishing returns. You know what I mean? Like, go for it. Like, play with other cool cards and really get the good feelings of playing powerful Commander and playing on a budget, you know, having it work for you and wherever you're at. You know, even if you have the money, some of these cards, you know, might be great for ratcheting down the power level of your deck. You know, you might have a mana drain and be like, you know what, like, for my play group, my mana drain isn't isn't balancing out very well. Like, it's not feeling fair. So you change it out for Disdainful Stroke, you know? There's all sorts of different reasons why these cards could be a good fit for you. And hopefully you like this video and you like me and you like thumbs up buttons and subscriptions and all that good stuff. All right. I want to thank Cool Stuff Inc. because they support me. I do this stuff because they are awesome. And if you want stuff from them, go there, link in the description. Jumbo 5 gets you 5% off your order. I also want to thank my patrons because if it's not for them, like, I wouldn't have the time and the ability to record this. So thank you so much to those guys and awesome gals. And thank you for everything, for watching this, for commenting down below, for sharing my videos, for all sorts of stuff. All right, everyone. I'll maybe see you for the next of this if you actually like this thing. All right. Hopefully you like Azorius because that was what we got today. Bye-bye.